I don't know, he was like the chief of the Olympics committee or something like that, or the Chinese woman who spoke in Chinese, I mean in Japanese, might have been. But the guy himself who spoke in English, you know, I understand that there's a background and there's a backlash of having the Olympics now because there's such a surge of coronavirus in Japan.
Yeah.
Okay? And so there were demonstrators outside, and they were making a noise outside and performing. But they were, I think, from what I could see, they were in the minority of the people outside of the stadium. Most of the people who came to the stadium outside came to see any fireworks or any glamour they could see and benefit from that experience. So, but then the guy who spoke in English, he knew that background. He was sympathetic towards everybody in the world and the countries about COVID and what had happened, and so his speech was a little subdued, and but he got applause, and I think there was artificial applause as well, but from the team people and that were sitting on the field watching him or listening to him. And then after that, there was sort of the ceremony afterwards was basically, I think, more human than, let's say, even the previous Olympics and Sydney Olympics. Okay, is that they were the previous ones were high tech. Okay, I just want. You saw massive. Everybody was impressed with this high-tech lights and lasers, and everybody that ran around was high-tech. And this was almost the opposite. Okay, and consciously designed like that. And so yes, you got a drone that was flying with an enormous big globe around it, outside over the city. The globe was probably the size of quite a tall building, and so that was a little bit of tech, and that is impressive. But that wasn't the purpose. There were people on the ground who were dancing in a certain way or using certain crafts, and I don't know what you call them, but and they had a purpose. It was really either talking about the Olympic movement since the beginning of time through to now in that, which in itself was interesting. But then when they, for example, brought the Olympic flag onto the field, an enormous big flag, there were 6 people always carrying it, and the first 6 people handed over to another 6 people, who handed over to another 6 people, and each of the 6 people were representing categories of human beings on the planet. Okay, and being able to I don't know. So that was, it was subtle. Okay. And so I appreciated that. Okay, it wasn't it wasn't entertainment. Okay, in the sense, it was something that was, for me. I listened. I thought, that's thoughtful. Okay, it's recognizing these people, and it's the first Olympics apparently that's 100% equality across the board, not only between male and female and black and white and that sort of thing. But all sorts of handicapped categories of people as well. I know there's Olympics, for handicapped people as well that comes up, but they were there too, and even children in certain categories carried the flag. Okay, so they were trying to be all inclusive. And say that the planet is all one planet, and we need to be sharing. Okay, that was an important thing. So their main word was solidarity across the planet. Okay, and how the Olympic movement is sort of like leading that, and people can join to see that we don't have hunger anymore, and we don't have this. The Olympic Committee have created their own team of people that have come to them who have been disadvantaged in that they've maybe been kicked out of their country, or they've run away from their country because they can't eat and that sort of thing. And the Olympic Committee have taken them under their wing, and they like a country that doesn't exist, but they're a grouping. Okay?
Yeah.
And so it was very humane. It was an outreach that I think people just didn't understand. Okay. And there's been, I saw the headlines this morning across many newspapers. I just looked on my cell phone when I was in bed, and I was disappointed to see that they were so scathing, a lot of them, about it. And yes, I agree that it should have been cancelled again. Okay, they shouldn't have had it. Okay, but they have had it, and they have brought everybody there, and they are the Olympians themselves that, you know, that's their life, that's their whole life. They're professional athletes. Okay, so now they get a chance to do that, and be part of the team. And so that's my opinion, okay, of what took place. And I think the person who designed it, the whole process, or the people, I guess it was a team and so on, I think they possibly achieved what they wanted to achieve. And so, yeah, it moves on. And it's unfortunate that mankind who watch the Olympics and the opening of the Olympics are so conditioned to glamour and you know,
being entertained and the wow, and
second to none, and there was none of that. Okay, or very little. Okay, very, very little of that, but there was some, but didn't take the main stage at all. Okay. So, you know, I was sort of thinking, yes, the Olympics needs to change and needs to adapt, and this is definitely one way to do it. Okay, is what they were saying, and I think they will move forward in the years to come, and perhaps be a different organization. And then, yeah, I have my criticism, not of the opening, but of the Olympic movement as a whole. You know, if you're going to bring the best athletes of the world together, I think too many of them come together there. I think there are too many not trial rounds, qualifying rounds of this, that, and the other thing. They should just bring enough team to have a semi-final and a final. You know, so if you're going to do the 100 meters swimming, you have won the one day, or and then, you know, from that you got the top in the world, you've got time, and then the next day you have the final. And that way, I think it would streamline it, and then also make it entertaining. But then the athletes also get to get their gold medals and whatever they want for it. Okay, but I think personally there needs to be a lot of change in the future. You know, it's and that's why I was encouraged with the opening. I thought there could be change coming where people actually matter. It's not ego issue. Okay, it's not about who gets gold medals and things like that. That was the sort of what I felt about it. And so but it was very thought-provoking for me. At the end, I sort of sat in my chair and I thought about it. Okay, and I just thought finally that they must continue the change. Okay. There's absolutely no harm in having athletics and the best in the world and so on. That's fine. Okay, but don't go overboard.
I think that's sort of almost the challenge, isn't it? Because if you look at a lot of professional sports, particularly in the US, like football and baseball and stuff, it's just entertainment from start to finish, you know, and people singing and dancing and fireworks, and it's like a circus, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas I think if you're talking, I mean, I suppose you are with teams in America too, you know, getting, you know, who's the best team to do this sport or that sport. and I'm not sure that one will need to do away, because it's also an expression for the individual people who are partaking in that sport as well. But yes, I agree a
Yeah.
lot of that would have.
Yeah.
But
I mean, my criticism of a lot of the professional sporters is just a business. I mean, that's
yes, it is a business. Yes, it is.
open and shut, whereas, hopefully the Olympics is exactly as you said, it's more about a celebration of humanity in many respects, So
Yeah, where I was never in favor of the Olympics bringing in teams, okay,
mm,
like a hockey team and so forth,
mm,
okay. To me it was always about the individual that
mm,
that is really perhaps the best in the world, okay. He's
yeah,
the weightlifter of the world, and you know,
mm,
and so and to me there's no harm in that at all. But
mm,
it's just too broad now, and too many people come into it,
mm.
not necessarily qualified properly, knowing all well that I would never get to a final of something or other.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, no, that's true.
but
Mm,
yeah, so that was my take on the opening ceremony.
mm, mm. It's sort of interesting, isn't it, in many respects, because if you reflect on the games themselves, like from the opening ceremony, it's also magnifies in some respects some of the challenges, doesn't it? Across the planet now, consumerism and the power that business organizations have, and it's not about competition towards excellence. It's just about it's almost like warfare, in that they're trying to conquer, for their own benefit. So
Yeah,
mm,
the Olympic Committee and the Olympic movement, it is about money, okay?
mm,
That possibly why they didn't cancel again now.
mm,
Uh, they postponed for a year, and now it's worse now than it was last year this time in Japan, and
yeah,
yet they don't postpone or just cancel altogether. But
mm,
it's about money, okay? And
mm, mm.
so, they are not a poor organization. So
Yeah, I think they're saying what, $26 billion to run these games or something. Mm,
yeah, whatever the figure is, it's actually for me irrelevant, because unlike perhaps like a teams in America playing each other for entertainment, here that you do have the best of the best
mm,
competing in these different sports, and so I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem perhaps with the movement, and I have a problem with how they manage it for money. Yes,
mm,
but but having somebody practice for many years, and in order to become the best that he can become, and then show that he's the best or compete with the other best, I don't have a problem with that. Um,
mm,
and But it is part of our existing environment of consumerism. There's no doubt about it.
mm, mm, mm. And it's also been an interesting week or two too, with a couple of the billionaires decided to go up into space, isn't it?
Yeah, between Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos, um,
Mm.
they are. God, they have the. One can really call it petty competition, playing with billions.
Well, it is, because part of the rhetoric is that Bezos was saying, "Oh, Branson didn't really get into space because he didn't get out a certain distance or something,
Yeah,
and I did, and but
and then
they're on.
Bezos says, my windows are bigger than Richard
Oh,
Branson's.
but they were only out there a matter of minutes, weren't they? Like, wasn't
Yeah, I think Bezos was about 11 minutes or something. I don't know how. Richard probably the same, Richard Branson.
it?
Um, and but they're starting a whole new ball game that
Mm,
people are going to pay, first of all, in 2021, lots and lots of money to go up to just the surface of space, and be entertained, see Earth and so on. But it's the start. I think that in time to come, they'll just fly directly to the moon, to where there's going to be an establishment, and they'll take people there, bring people back, and as opposed to maybe Elon Musk, who will have his enormous big spaceship that is going to go to Mars and also take passengers and supplies and everything else. And then from there, he's going to build to go to Mars from the moon. So I think there's probably place for both of them. And so that would be, the next thing I see with and also I've read a lot now about although there are something like 12 countries who are aiming for the moon at the moment, there are also other countries, and some of those 12, that want to build their not a space station like China and NASA have done, but sort of like an entertainment platform out there, something that means, I don't know, it might have a hotel and swimming pools, I don't know, but they want to build their own thing out there. And then there are other people who want to, create a business and mine the asteroids and things like that and get metals. And so there's just a lot of technology that's evolving very quickly, where all this is going to happen in our lifetime. And I think Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson are just part of that little game, that little formula. It's a game because they've got so much money to throw around, but there's something serious behind the whole intent of humanity wanting to, get to the moon and get to Mars, and there's now talk about Venus and what's happening there. So it's, I don't know, it's just very interesting, being aware of all that. And as one person in my class said, and I totally agree with them, they said, it's too early for us to get to Mars, because what, we want to mess up Mars like we've messed up Earth?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I just find it all exciting, and
but isn't it ironic though that, like, the big, well, apparently the big forces behind a lot of these initiatives are business.
Yeah.
It's not countries or communities; it's business.
Yeah, that's it's transformed from. You remember when you were an absolute youngster, okay? When Russia, launched Sputnik.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. That was about 1960 or somewhere around there, and then Americans, launched their whatever they called it at that time, but. And there was like this race, and there were, there was a threat of a nuclear war between the two, and now they were racing to get stuff into space, and then it all died down. But now it's evolved to a much more sophisticated situation, where it's not just about getting to the moon or getting to Mars. There's something else that's there, okay? And it involves like 5G satellites at different levels, and it involves all sorts of control of Earth, okay? As opposed of being a spacefaring nation, it's always focused back on wealth and money and control,
and not necessarily from a particular country either.
Well, yeah, I think definitely. If you look at NASA and who is behind NASA, which is the Black Hats, and China and who's behind China, which is the Black Hats, okay, then you've got sort of the countries used as a camouflage, maybe.
Well, they're just like the shop front, aren't they? Really? Yeah.
Yes, like the shop front, absolutely. And then and then there are individuals. But they're not, and they're not as conspicuous as Elon Musk or the others. it's very devious. It's very behind the scenes, but it's really the satanic force that is in the people that are in the pulpit that really need more control than what they've got, and take it to another level, and then start reducing the population on Earth. That's all there, okay? All waiting for the black hats to take. So at the moment, we've got the strong white hat movement on Earth, and I suspect, okay, I just don't get it from any source at all, but I suspect that there's a strong presence of the white hats in the satellites around the Earth, okay? You know, when you consider people, I mean, even Japan, all right, there we are now, you know, they've been launching satellites into space for a long time. India's been launching satellites into space for a long time. I mean, they the record of the most satellites in one launch, okay? So it's really interesting to see that all is, I mean, the European Space Agency as well, which is, I guess, fundamentally France and Germany, they are also into it, okay? So I think the white hats are in somewhere in that lot, okay? I'm not sure where. I just have, this is all my own speculation, because I haven't had any conspiracy theories or any confirmation or any ideas from somebody, but I suspect they are. And I suspect that we're going to see in the very near future some satellites mysteriously disappearing, okay, or blowing up, or some excuse by the media, perhaps saying something like, "Oh, that one was too old. Now it's fallen out of space." Okay, they make those sort of comments, but it was probably blown up by one or the other, you know, white or black hats. So I think we're going to see a lot of that soon. That's my speculation. But I suppose people like me create conspiracy theories. So
well, it's hard not to in some respects, though, isn't it? You know, when you see how these individuals conduct themselves. So.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
It is fascinating. So how's your get set up going? Is it still doing okay and everything?
Yeah, no, that's all fine.
Have you done any more of your spirituality sessions?
I have one a week. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. And each one, as I said before, is different. Okay, because you have different people in them. It's starting now to have some of the same people come back. Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's interesting. But I keep the same, let's say, agenda. Okay, the same approach.
Did they say why they've come back?
Yeah. They want to be there. They want to talk. They want to interact, because a lot of them are feeling like they're not attached to anything, and they feel they want to be attached to something. They want to have some grounding in something bigger than themselves. Okay, but they don't know. Some of them have been through religions quite hectically. Some of them have been through, you know, Christianity and Eastern religions, and have come out now as pensioners and not attached to any of them, but knowing they want to be, there must be something more out there. Okay? So yeah, those are the sort of comments that one gets, and
and are they looking towards this session to help them, you know, make sense of it, or what are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to help them think, okay, that's and at the end of the lesson, they all have their own comments about it. So it's each one is slightly different. Obviously, it's very personal, but they all feel that, you know, what has been said in the class is really of value to them. Okay. Not said by me, but said by the class. Okay.
By the others, yeah.
By all the others, including myself. I'm just one of the class. So So, that's moving forward. And each class, I sort of throw in just a little bit more than perhaps I ventured to in the previous classes. Just really talking about, maybe not talking about, that's the wrong word, but throwing out things, what happens after death, okay? And where did you come from? Where do you think you came from before you were alive, And they've all got opinions, okay? And so they share those opinions. And then, of course, a typical, really my powerful question, the why. Why are we here? Okay. And so, so it sort of goes along that line. And then we say, okay, so we, not everybody agrees we're here to learn or anything, okay? Some of them really have no idea why we're here, okay? And that's fine. But I continue. Then I say, okay, let's assume we had to learn, okay, because we came from somewhere, we're going back somewhere, but so there must be a reason for being here, and so let's assume it is to grow in consciousness, okay. Then I might bring in the word soul, and the soul is linked to the Creator or the universe, okay, the words that I tend to use, and now. How would you grow your consciousness? Okay, so we bring up things like gratitude and kindness and sharing, and then they bring up some words as well. So that's the sort of the core of the class, which I'm always, when it finishes, very happy with. Okay,
yep.
Because I could do that every day, but once a week, so that's the spirituality class.
And it's quite well attended?
Yeah, I wouldn't like sort of like 25 people in the class, because that would be very difficult to get people's input. Then people just then become listeners, and there might be value in that, I guess. But yeah, I've got about who knows, sort of 10 to 15, depending on the class. Okay, that's quite a nice number, and not everybody does participate, but a lot of them do, and and I'm comfortable as long as the class can go with people participating, because I don't want it me preaching. Okay.
No.
So there's got to be participants. So those that are listening and not participating, then there's value for them. Okay. I'm sure. Okay. But there needs to be that discussion so that people can identify with what other people are saying, and they can see that this is not sort of a one-way road. We're not sort of trying to get them to become a Christian and punch the Bible or something like that. Okay.
No.
And people are unsure when they arrive for the first time. They have no idea. And some of them are very reticent. They sort of hold back and think, I've just come to see what this is all about. That's often a comment we get at the beginning. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I try and bring them out and talk to them just a little bit, depending how quickly they come into class. The first ones in, I can get to have a little bit of a conversation before the class starts.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's
not talking too much.
No, I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. I really do. It's a rare thing. I mean, where else do you go to have those sort of conversations? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And the audience is perfect for it, because they're thinking about some of those things based on their life experience. So
yeah. And I also think that I look at all of them. I think you didn't choose to come here, okay? The universe brought you here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see how it develops in the future, and see how it gets set up like it as well.
Well, they seem to like it, by the sounds of it. Just you're doing it every week. I mean, if they didn't like it, they'd drop it, wouldn't they?
They would. Okay. But generally, the attitude these days seems to be let's give something 4 to 6 weeks of classes, 6 classes, 1 a week, and see how it goes and see what the attendance is. And they all come in and listen on the side where you actually don't see them. So they a lot of the, I don't know what you want to call them, the hierarchy of get set up, pop in to listen and see as well. So there's quite a lot of that going on as well. So
how many weeks has that particular course been going?
I don't really know. I think probably 4 now. I think I've had the 4th one. Yeah, and to a degree, I have a say in what courses I've just laid out now for the whole of August, and I've included that one every week in August. Okay.
Yeah.
And they haven't denied it. Okay. And so I think I'm logical with what I suggest, in that if something, first of all, is not working for me, I'm just not comfortable with that class, I ask them to drop it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I never ask them to drop it without giving them a replacement.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've learned that since last year. The strategy needs to be like that, and then it's quite comfortable. Otherwise, I think, well, what am I going to replace it with? And then they go through a whole idea generating. No, I give them one to place. Okay? I took one out now. It was on, what's today? Saturday, Friday night, yesterday night. We were finalizing August, and there was one I didn't like. I can't remember now, but anyway, I said take it out and replace it with indoor plants that won't die. So great, they thought that was brilliant. Okay, and they haven't looked at the content, they haven't looked at anything other than the title. Okay. And so I still got to create the class. I just thought it's a great title, and also I know from history I know there are plants. I've just got to do some research now and get that under my belt. But there are plants that fit the bill there.
Yeah. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So what have you picked up from Altra lately?
Oh, well, they've got one of their big conferences on. I think it might be today, actually. Yeah, the 24th. Yeah, that one about, the world in climate crisis. I think that's on probably now, I guess. So.
Okay.
And they said something about they're going to have 72 languages simultaneously interpreting the content of it or something. So.
Great.
That's no mean feat, is it? So.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Did you listen to Eagle that came up? I don't know, when did it come up? 3 or 4 days ago on Telegram. Where
no, I haven't.
That's worth it. That's worth going to. It's 2 hours, okay? And I listened to it, okay? Because it caught me at the beginning, and I thought, okay, a little bit in the middle, I fast-forwarded it, but not much. And it's worth listening to, because it's the first time where he maybe for 2 hours talked and really, what's the right word? He didn't threaten the world, but he told them what is going to happen. He told them what is being developed scientifically, okay, and what devices are available at the moment which can give us free energy, which are being kept secret. He now talks about those things, not just in concept, but in more detail, and talks about the climate change, that it's really, really real, okay, and going to influence, but there are ways to still intervene, okay. And he mentions them, okay, what they're it's not about. He said, he speaks about the carbon dioxide, okay, that motor cars expel and factories and things, okay. And he says there are now forests scientifically proven that the trees are now so being conditioned with the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that they are now starting to produce carbon dioxide, not oxygen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, I
Mm.
really didn't know that. Now that, as he says, he tells us these things now because we need to get frightened. Okay,
Yeah.
we need to do something about it. Okay,
Mm.
and he tells us how that is now affecting the climate and what's going to happen with the climate. And
Mm.
so he painted in his own quiet way. You know how he
Mm.
talks. Okay, and and the interpretation is always normal level,
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
no emotion, and and he's telling some harsh facts in those 2 hours,
Mm.
and but there isn't. He said it towards the end. There isn't he has all along the 2 hours. He talks about the solution, but the solutions can't be put into place, okay, until people come together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he says that 10 years ago he was saying,
Mm.
what today he said 10 years ago, I think the population was 7 billion, and now 10 years on it's 8 billion.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Um, and all the bad sort of things like starvation and poverty have not improved one iota. They've all got worse
Mm.
10 years ago. And he said, reducing the world population is not going to solve the situation. Okay.
No. No.
Um, and
Mm.
so, yeah, so he talks about exactly what the solution is. But from your and my perspective, um, it's a creative society, we know, but that's not going to happen overnight. He says of the 8 billion, 6 billion need to cooperate, okay,
Mm.
for it to work, for it to happen.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
Um, and so he said, Alatra is doing utmost best trying to get people becoming aware and out there, and they're growing quite quickly. I don't think he actually said how quickly they're growing, but he said they're spreading their wings, um, and he didn't mention other organizations that I think also doing the same sort of thing, like
Mm.
the consciousness maybe, or
Mm.
some of the others, but. Uh, he just said there's just no progress, and he said, now what's going to happen? What is going to happen when the first bit of SH1T hits the fan,
Mm.
and and our people start panicking? He said
Mm.
there's time to come together and to listen to solutions, which there are solutions collectively for the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not just about stopping carbon dioxide from motor cars or something. Okay,
Mm.
it's so complex and detailed in every single aspect, but they all have to be dealt with.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
and, so, but the question I guess he left at the end, um, not being asked, but I think it implied was, is it going to happen?
Mm. Mm.
Okay. Um, so, so yeah, so it was worth the time spent listening to him.
Mm.
I enjoyed it, and it reinforced my uh, positiveness towards Alatra.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, um, and yeah, um,
Mm.
we'll just see what happens where first. Okay, and
I think you're absolutely well. Your observation's spot on in the sense too, because that's also been my sense of it as well. Is that for things to change, they have to change at the individual level, but directed in a collective conscious way.
mm,
And that's the tricky bit, because all of our lives, our education system, a lot of our culture, and all of those, the business and everything, it's all about separation. It's about taking things away for yourself. You
yeah,
know, not adding something there for the benefit of all, you know, and that's the challenge, is to turn that around, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, but you know, each person is doing those that are doing their bit, okay. But it's not about that. It's about we're talking about I don't know, maybe monolithic type problems that really are of a global nature that
You're still there? You've just frozen up.
okay. Oh my
You're back.
goodness.
No, you're back now. You're back now.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
let
back
me
now.
check my internet.
You were just about to make a very salient point, and then you just froze. Maybe the black hats didn't want it said.